watching World News Program. I'm your host Miriam Zian, and these are the top stories for tonight. On the 26th day of the Zionist US war in Iran, the Revolutionary Guard announced having launched the 81st wave of the True Promise 4 operation that targeted vital facilities and sites deep inside the entity. Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters says the US is negotiating with itself, and Tehran confirmed its rejection of the US proposal to end the war, and the White House stressed that talks with Iran were ongoing, that work was underway to cripple its capabilities. In developments regarding the Strait of Hormuz crisis, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says the aggression against his country is behind the instability in the Gulf and the Strait, and the Energy Agency says it is ready to release additional quotas of oil reserves. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune affirms the strategic nature of partnership between Algeria and Italy, stressing the convergence of the two countries' positions on the need to halt the forms of escalation in the Middle East. For her part, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni affirms that Algeria is a strategic partner and emphasizes Rome's determination to strengthen energy cooperation with Algiers. Hello and welcome back to the details of your nightly news. And first, Iran's Revolutionary Guard announced having launched the 81st wave of True Promise 4 operation, striking areas across what it called occupied Palestinian territories with multiple missile types. In a Wednesday statement, it said Imad, Qiyam, Khoromashar 4 and Precision Qadr missiles hit more than 70 targets. A spokesperson for the Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters, Ibrahim Zolfagari, said both offensive and defensive operations took place in the recent hours. Meanwhile, Iran's Tasnim news agency reported drone strikes since dawn targeting Rafale military industries in Haifa aerospace sites near Ben Gurion Airport and refueling aircraft at the airport. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it launched missiles toward the Zionist entity as well as Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. Iranian state TV reported strikes across northern and central areas, including Jaffa, along with U.S. bases in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan, using missiles and attack drones. Iran's Navy also claimed it fired cruise missiles at the U.S. Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, warning of further strikes. A military statement said the carrier was forced to change position in the Gulf and is being closely monitored. Iran says the U.S. is negotiating with itself a day after President Donald Trump said Tehran wants a deal to end the Middle East war. Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters spokesperson Ibrahim Zolfagari mocked Washington, questioning whether internal divisions have reached the point of self-negotiation. He added that U.S. investments and energy prices won't return to pre-war levels unless Washington accepts that regional stability is ensured by Iran's armed forces.
Has the level of your internal discord reached the point where you are negotiating with yourselves? There will be neither any sign of your investments in the region, nor will you see previous energy and oil prices until you understand this. Stability in the region is guaranteed by the powerful hand of our armed forces. Stability comes through power.
Tehran has rejected the 15-point U.S. plan to end the Middle East war, according to Iranian state TV. An official requiring anonymity said the war will end on Iran's terms. Then Tehran has set 5 conditions, including guarantees against future attacks and financial compensation for war damage. Iran's press TV, quoting a local official, says Iran reviewed a U.S. proposal to end the war and considers its terms excessive. The official said Iran will only end the war on its own timeline and conditions, including recognition of its sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz and an end to attacks on it and allied groups. He added Iran will continue defensive operations until its demands are met and firm guarantees are in place to prevent another war. 7 Iraqi fighters were killed and 13 wounded in an airstrike followed by aircraft gunfire targeting the Habaniya military clinic and maintenance unit in western Iraq. The Defense Ministry said the victims were killed while carrying out their duties, calling the attack a serious escalation and vowing to take necessary legal measures to respond and hold those responsible accountable. The UN Human Rights Council condemned what it called Iran's heinous attacks on Gulf neighbors backed a GCC Jordan resolution and urged compensation for victims and immediate halt to attacks, including moves to close the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the Council will hold an emergency session in Geneva on Friday to discuss the war's impact, including a deadly strike on an Iranian school that killed more than 150 children. With talks also focusing on protecting children in schools in armed conflicts. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said instability in the Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz is the result of US and Israeli attacks on Iran. In a call with China's Wang Yi, he discussed regional development, stressing that Tehran's measures comply with international law and are aimed at defending its sovereignty and national security.
Instead of fulfilling its duty to maintain international peace and security, the Security Council ignored the main cause of the current situation, namely the aggression by the United States and Israeli regime. Instead of condemning the aggressors and holding them accountable, the blame was placed on Iran, which is defending itself. Iran strongly expects the Security Council members, especially China and Russia, to prevent the United States from continuing to exploit the Council by taking a firm stance, condemning the aggression of the United States and the Zionist regime.
And the head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, said the agency is ready to release more of oil reserves. Speaking from Tokyo, he said stockpiles remain high, with about 80% still available, noting that the 400 million barrels previously released accounted for only 20% of total reserves.
If the situation requires more support from the IEA, we are there, and this, even though 400 million barrels is a huge amount of oil, both crude oil and products, we still have a significant amount of oil in our stocks. 80% of our stocks are still with us. This 400 million barrels were only 20% of our stocks. If and when necessary, we are ready to move forward, but I very much hope that it will not be necessary.
Lebanon's health ministry reported 9 civilians killed and 47 injured early Wednesday in Israeli airstrikes across southern Lebanon. Strikes on Adloun in Sidon killed 4 and wounded 1, while attacks on the Miyah refugee camp in Habush killed 5 and injured 22. Another strike in Tyre's Al Alam roundabout wounded 24 people. The Spanish government said Israel's expansion plan in Lebanon aims to destroy the country, similar to its actions in Gaza. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez told Parliament that Spain supports Lebanon's sovereignty and will uphold its people's will, warning that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seeks to inflict the same level of destruction on Lebanon as in Gaza.
Más de 4 millones de personas desplazadas en Irán.
More than 4 million people have been displaced in Iran and Lebanon, and emboldened the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, whose aim is to inflict on Lebanon the same destruction and suffering as that inflicted on Gaza.
Also, Algeria warned that Israel is systematically trying to undermine the Palestinian cause by weakening state institutions and ignoring international resolutions. Speaking for the Arab group at the UN Security Council, Algeria's Deputy Ambassador Toufiq El-Aid-Qudri said Israel is blatantly violating international law through relentless settlement expansion and warned that hostile statements against the Palestinian Authority threaten the foundations of a future Palestinian state. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune received on Wednesday Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who paid an official visit to Algeria, the presidential palace in Algiers. Later on, President Abdelmajid Tebboune held private talks with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni during her official visit and friendly visit to Algeria, the presidential office said. The talks between Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni at the presidential palace expanded to include members of both delegations. After the meeting, Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune said both Algeria and Italy are pleased with recent progress in bilateral cooperation. He emphasized the strategic nature of their partnership, especially in energy, and reaffirmed Algeria's commitment amid challenges to supply security and global oil and gas market stability.
أكدنا على الطابع الاستراتيجي لشراكتنا المتعددة في كل المجالات، لا سيما في مجال الطاقة والأمن. وفي هذا الصدد على الخصوص أود أن أشير إلى حرص الجزائر على الوفاء بالتزاماتها باعتبارها شريكاً استراتيجياً وموثوقاً للجمهورية الإيطالية ولأوروبا بصفة عامة، وفي ظل التحديات المرتبطة بأمن الإمدادات واستقرار الأسواق الدولية للنفط والغاز.
President Abdelmajid Tebboune also reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to deepening and expanding cooperation with Italy in technology, startups, renewable energy, agriculture, and food security.
وأن أجدد كذلك التزامنا بتعميق وتوسيع التعاون في مجالات التكنولوجيا الحديثة والمؤسسات الناشئة والتكوين والبحث العلمي والطاقات المتجددة والهيدروجين الأخضر والفلاحة المبتكرة والأمن الغذائي.
Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune said an agreement was reached with Italy to fast-track the creation of an Algerian-Italian Chamber of Commerce, enabling businesses to tap into opportunities in both countries. He also added that talks with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni showed significant convergence on many regional and international issues.
اتفقنا في هذه المناسبة كذلك على تسريع إجراءات إنشاء الغرفة التجارية، واتفقنا على إنشاء الغرفة التجارية على أساس أن تنصب من بعد غرفة التجارية الإيطالية الجزائرية لتسمح باللقاء نتاع المتعاملين الاقتصاديين في بعضهم بعض والتعامل مثل ما هو قائم مع غرف التجارة مع الدول الصديقة الأخرى، التي ستمكن المتعاملين الاقتصاديين من استغلال الإمكانيات والفرص التي تزخر بها بلداننا. وأكدنا أهمية تعزيز التعاون في المجالات الثقافية والعلمية والإنسانية بما يسهم في توطيد جسور التواصل والتقارب بين الشعبين الجزائري والإيطالي.
President Tebboune stressed that both sides agreed on the need to immediately halt all escalation in the Middle East and prioritize dialogue and diplomacy while respecting state sovereignty and the security of their peoples.
وعلى الصعيد الإقليمي والدولي أتاحت لنا الفرصة في محادثتنا لتبادل وجهات النظر حول عدد من القضايا ذات الاهتمام المشترك، حيث سجلنا تقاربا ملحوظا في المواقف إزاء العديد من الملفات، فيما يخص الوضع في الشرق الأوسط وتداعياته على الأمن والسلم الدوليين، أكدنا على ضرورة الوقف الفوري لكل أشكال التصعيد وتغليب الحوار والدبلوماسية واحترام سيادة الدول وأمن شعوبها.
On the Palestinian issue, he reaffirmed Algeria's strong condemnation of serious international and humanitarian law violations against Palestinians in Gaza, calling for intensified global efforts to achieve a just and lasting solution that guarantees their legitimate rights.
فيما يتعلق بالقضية الفلسطينية، جددت تأكيد بلادي على إدانة شديدة للانتهاكات الجسيمة للقانون الدولي الإنساني التي يتعرض لها الشعب الفلسطيني، وعلى ضرورة تكثيف الجهود الدولية من أجل التوصل إلى حل عادل يضمن الحقوق المشروعة للشعب الفلسطيني وفي مقدمتها حقه في إقامة دولته المستقلة وفق قرارات الشرعية الدولية، بما يمهد لإرساء سلام عادل ودائم في المنطقة.
President Tebboune said that Algeria and Italy expressed concern over the situation in the Sahel and emphasized the need to tackle terrorism and organized crime there. The two sides also stressed the importance of urgent efforts to help Libya overcome political deadlock and reaffirmed the need for a just political solution allowing the Sahrawi people to exercise their inalienable right to self-determination.
أما بخصوص الوضع في القارة الإفريقية، فقد استعرضت مع معالي رئيسة الوزراء أهم نتائج المؤتمر الثاني الإفريقي الإيطالي الذي انعقد الشهر المنصرم بأديس أبيبا، وفي هذا الصدد عبرنا عن قلقنا تجاه الوضع في الساحل وعن حرصنا على مواجهة التحديات المتعلقة بمكافحة الإرهاب والجريمة المنظمة في هذه المنطقة الحيوية بالنسبة لإفريقيا وللحوض المتوسط.
For her part, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni called Algeria a strategic partner with special ties, especially amid global instability. During a joint press conference with President Tebboune, she described bilateral relations as very strong and at an unprecedented level in their history. She also highlighted both countries' plans to enhance energy cooperation, particularly in new areas like shale gas and offshore exploration.
Come sapete, questa è la mia seconda visita ufficiale.
This is my second official visit to Algeria. I first visited Algeria in January, 3 months after assuming the office of Prime Minister. This is clear proof of the very special relationship we have with Algeria, a strategic partner for Italy, especially in these difficult international circumstances marked by instability. These relations remain steadfast and strong. There is a sincere and deep friendship. We worked extensively years ago with His Excellency President Tebboune to strengthen this cooperation and bilateral relations. Indeed, relations have reached a very strong and solid stage, unprecedented in the history of bilateral cooperation. There are many areas where we can enhance cooperation, particularly in energy. As His Excellency President Tebboune mentioned, we decided to strengthen the existing strong cooperation between INI and Sonatrach by working on new fronts and areas, such as shale gas and offshore exploration, in order to bolster gas supplies from Algeria to Italy.
On Middle East tensions, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said her country hopes US-Iran negotiations will resume. Speaking with President Tebboune, she warned of the region's economic fallout, called for a ceasefire in Lebanon, highlighted the dire conditions for Palestinians, and urged adherence to international law and a two-state solution.
We spoke at length about the crises in the Middle East, which are a cause for concern if they persist for an extended period, given their potentially disastrous economic repercussions, particularly for African nations. I believe that resuming negotiations between Iran and the United States is something we hope will be achieved. Italy intends to strengthen its relations with all the Gulf states. We also discussed the situation in Lebanon, where a ceasefire is essential, as well as the situation in Gaza, where the people are living in extremely harsh conditions. Therefore, we must work to maintain stability in the region in accordance with the international community's vision and achieve a two-state solution.
Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni highlighted Algeria's key role as a bridge between Europe and Africa. At a joint press conference with President Tebboune, she noted that the upcoming visit of Pope Francis to Algeria is a historic event, reflecting cultural and civilizational ties that Italy and Algeria seek to strengthen.
Sono convinta che, insomma, Italia e Algeria abbiano ancora tantissimo
We have much work ahead of us between Italy and Algeria. There are cultural and civilizational ties that we wish to strengthen. Over the coming weeks, there is a historic event in Algeria, the first visit of Pope Leo to Algeria. Accordingly, the Pope will visit all the sites associated with St. Augustine. This confirms that Algeria plays an important role in bringing perspectives closer and represents a bridge between Europe and Africa, which will enable us to prosper together.
Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's visit to Algeria marks a new step in strengthening the strategic partnership between the two countries and an opportunity to reaffirm their shared commitment to expanding bilateral cooperation. Mara Balaiwer has more details.
For decades, relations between Algeria and Italy have stood as a model of cooperation, spanning political, security, and economic fields, particularly in energy, industry, and agriculture. Today, that partnership is entering a new phase, no longer limited to traditional cooperation. Algiers and Rome are advancing toward a structured and permanent strategic dialogue crowned by the fourth session held recently in the Algerian capital. This growing dynamic reflects sustained high-level engagement, with repeated exchanges between President Abdelmajid Tebboune and his Italian counterpart Sergio Mattarella, confirming a shared political will to elevate bilateral relations. The acceleration comes amid a volatile geopolitical environment marked by escalating tensions in the Middle East. In this context, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's visit to Algeria provides an opportunity to assess progress on strategic projects across energy, agriculture, and investment, while expanding cooperation in counter-terrorism and defense. Military ties have also gained momentum, notably following the 2024 visit of Algeria's Chief of Staff, General Said Chengriha, to Italy, with both sides describing cooperation as reaching an advanced level.
يسعدني
Beyond economic and security dimensions, Algeria and Italy maintain convergent positions on key regional issues, which include the Sahel, the Middle East tensions, the need for a just solution to the Palestinian cause, as well as support for a fair resolution to the Western Sahara issue in line with UN resolutions. Both countries also align on the need to reach a political solution to the Libyan crisis, preserving Libya's unity and preventing further instability. A strategic partnership that continues to evolve at a time of deep geopolitical uncertainty.
That brings tonight's newscast to an end. Thank you for watching.